everyone. Welcome to our first Access to Justice Week event. Very happy to have so many of you join us today. Today's session is The Future of Justice with BC's Attorney General, and it is hosted in collaboration with CLEBC, Access to Justice BC, the Canadian Bar Association BC branch, and the Law Foundation of BC. And I'm so pleased that we have so many of you here today. My name is Carrie Simmons, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm the CEO of CBABC, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's discussion. I'm joining you from the CBABC office, which is located on the traditional and unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, the Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, whose historical relationships with the land continue to this day. At CBABC, we make land acknowledgements and hope that all of our lawyers are recognizing the significant harm that the legal system and lawyers have done to Indigenous peoples. And we want to learn about what happened in the past, what is happening in the future, and make sure that such harms never happen again. So we make sure that we've got educational opportunities for our members and that we have discussions about what is going on and move forward together. Today, we are very lucky to have with us the Honourable Chief Judge Melissa Gillespie, who is going to kick off today's session with opening remarks. She, of course, was appointed to the Provincial Court in 2012 and has been the acting Chief Judge then in 2018 and became the Chief Judge on October of 2018 as well. And she is a huge proponent of increasing access to justice and does so much work within the Provincial Court to that end. And so she is here to make some opening remarks and introduce the Attorney General. Over to you.
Thanks, Carrie, and welcome to this A2J week. It's 2026 kickoff feature event. We appreciate the support of many justice system partners who are joining us today and to organize and host free events like these, including the CBABC, CLEBC, and the Law Foundation of British Columbia. I'm, as Carrie said, Melissa Gillespie, Chief Judge of the BC Provincial Court, and I'm also a member of the Steering Committee for Access to Justice BC, or A2J BC network. I believe Access to Justice BC started in 2014, and in 2018, A2J Week began as a mechanism to engage law students, legal professionals, members of the public in discussions about how the justice system can be changed to meet the justice needs of the people of BC. It focused attention on the crisis of affordable and accessible justice, and we continue to inspire new, innovative, and user-focused ways to meet people's needs as a result of this movement. Access to justice is a shared responsibility. The responsibility spans courts, government, the profession, law schools, and the communities that we serve. Lawyers, advocates, and support workers work tirelessly for their clients, but meaningful, lasting change can't rest on individual effort alone. We require collaborations amongst all of these groups. Our justice system must be designed to allow and encourage intersectoral and collaborative approaches that support fairness, accessibility, innovation, and public confidence is derived from all of these. This year's A2J theme really seeks to drive home the importance of innovation and collaboration. The theme is From Challenges to Possibilities, Reimagining Access to Justice. As the Chief Judge of the Provincial Court, I wish to highlight a key area of collaboration where the BC Provincial Court and Justice Services Branch have partnered to improve access to justice for families in BC. That collaboration is the early resolution process and continued registry expansion. The process was designed to help families with issues like parenting arrangements, guardianship, contact, and support, providing them with early information, conducting a needs assessment, including screening for family violence, and referrals to address both legal and, most importantly, non-legal needs, a parenting education program, and at least one consensual dispute resolution session before a court application is filed. Family justice counselors in the Ministry of the Attorney General's Family Justice Services deliver most of those services. The ministry and the provincial court have worked together on ongoing evaluations of the early resolution process. And in Victoria and Surrey, about 60% of families participating in this process don't proceed to court. The process significantly improves participants' understanding of the family justice process and next steps. It provides timely and appropriate responses to families' needs. It supports a narrowing resolution of issues outside court and really contributes to more effective and efficient use of court time for disputes that cannot be resolved through this process. A few numbers: the number of families receiving this consensual dispute resolution from Family Justice Services increased by 70%. 68% of families who participate resolve some or all of their legal issues, and 60% of families resolve their issues without filing any application to the court. It's in the Fraser region, the Vancouver coastal region, South Island, expanding to the North Island and the interior. Today, we're talking about why this conversation about A2J matters now. Its session asks a timely and essential question. How do we ensure our justice system keeps pace with the needs of British Columbians? Policy choices, funding decisions, system design, and our principles and practices all play a critical role in shaping access to justice outcomes. Today, we have a chance to spend some time with the Honourable Niki Sharma, KC, Attorney General of British Columbia. As a lawyer, Attorney General Sharma built an impressive career representing Indigenous peoples, including residential school survivors, and advocating on issues from reconciliation to combating racism. Since her appointment as Attorney General in 2022 and her subsequent appointment as a Deputy Premier in 2024, she's advanced investments in family law legal aid, early resolution process, and new protections against online exploitation, and been a leader on bail issues. Her tenure reflects a commitment to making our justice system more accessible, equitable, and responsive. Today, the Attorney General will share the government's perspective on key access to justice challenges, current initiations and collaborations, as well as plans and opportunities for the future. This is going to be an interactive session. Your participation really matters. Bring your questions, your insights, and your ideas as we consider how legal professionals and institutions can work together to advance access to justice. With that, I'm really pleased to turn things over to the Attorney General to begin this important discussion on the future of justice in British Columbia. Minister Sharma, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Chief Judge. And I'm going to take the first minute off the top to extend my appreciation for the Chief Judge and all of her work. I know that the time on the court that we have with her is unfortunately not very long, but I just have been so inspired by her work and her drive and her passion for our court system. And I know for a fact, and you probably all know this, that the provincial court in BC is strong and has been changed in so many ways for the good because of the good work of Chief Judge Gillespie. And I was just really honored to be able to witness some of that during my time as AG. So hands up to you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody. I can't see everybody out there today, but what I imagine is a group of very eager and passionate people that are concerned or working in the area of access to justice. And first and foremost, I want to acknowledge that the good work of all of you out there, that many of you I've probably met that are out there trying to make our system better and working to help people that are in some of the most difficult situations in their life. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that we're gathered on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people. As the Chief Judge mentioned, it's been my honor to be Attorney General these past few years. And during that journey, it's been really inspiring to be able to meet people that are working in the profession at all levels that have really great ideas, that are seeing the challenges that exist in our system or opening doors for people every day. And that's really been what's guided me or our government's work with respect to expanding access to justice in our province. To me, and I think one of the questions that I was asked to answer is, what does access to justice mean? To me, it's a very multi-level, multifaceted answer that I would give to that question. It has to do with the systems that we have in the province, how we resolve disputes, who has access to legal resources and who doesn't, the types of legal professions that are scoped and can provide legal services. It has to do with our strength of our legal aid system, our ability to get legal information to people at the right time in their journey, and the ability to help people who are vulnerable and unable to access or even appreciate the legal issues that they are facing. The solutions that we have that are to address that also have to be multifaceted, whether that's modernization of our court system, better technology at all levels, in all ways, whether it's simply just being able to file things in a digital way or being able to reach people in different parts of the province through virtual means. It also means making sure that we expand and support those programs that are helping with processes. So all those processes that lead us to a resolution of dispute, what they mean, what the steps are to get there, and how people can access them. And there's a lot of interesting innovations on that front, and particularly with the Intimate Images Protection Act at the CRT that has the ability for people to apply for orders on their phone 24/7, and can be largely a digital experience when it comes to a resolution. There's so many ways we can think about access to justice, and that's how we've approached our work at the ministry. And I just want to say that none of it is done in absence or just on our own. It's always in partnership with really strong organizations we have in our province. And certainly before, when I was a lawyer practicing, I saw the benefit of a lot of these organizations that are in community there to provide this information to people that don't have access or can't pay for a lawyer. And we are strengthened because of all of that work. And certainly the front lines of that work is something that's vital to keep supported. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of our priorities and how I see the focus that we've had on expanding access to justice through various partnerships and work. And I'll focus on a few of that, and then I'd like to maybe pose some questions out there to the audience about where I think the future is and what we have to grapple with in our system. And I would love to have a dialogue with those people I can't see that are out there listening. First of all, the family justice system. I know, and there's family law practitioners out here, that this is an area which not only is very important to the people that are facing those family law challenges, oftentimes it's the highest form of unrepresented people that we have in our system, and it has the most impact on families. If you can resolve a dispute earlier without protracted litigation, you reduce the trauma, you reduce the impacts to society and that family from that resolution. Our work in the family justice system over the past few years, thanks to partnerships and ideas that were championed at the provincial court level by the chief judge, has been, I think, transforming a lot of the ways that the family law system works. So first of all, just in terms of the early resolution process that the chief judge, those stats were also in my speech, but she already talked about how the expansion of early resolution, and that's getting information to people before it gets to a protracted court process, can actually help divert things from that process and help resolve things in a more profound way. We're updating the Family Law Act right now, and that's work that's happening. And there's an intentions paper out there right now about how we plan on doing that. And that's based on input that we've heard about the laws that need to be strengthened and changed related to that. We were able to make an investment, 29 million, which was a pretty significant investment. I think one of the largest investments into family law legal aid in the province, to expand just people's access to be able to get the resources that they need to resolve their disputes. And we're constantly thinking about how we can design processes to make it better for those kinds of interventions that people need at the right time and the right place. Another real focus of mine has been on gender-based violence and how it shows up in our justice system. I asked Dr. Stanton to do a full review of our justice system and talk to all partners, and I'm really appreciative of all those that participated and all independent actors to say what are the gaps that people face when they come forward with either gender-based violence or sexual assault cases in the system, and that was family law and criminal law, and what are the ways that we can make it better. The reason that I stepped into that work was not only my experience as a lawyer when I was representing people that were going through this very difficult phase, but also I found as an AG that women that were extremely brave would come to me and tell me about their experience from beginning to end in either the family system or the criminal justice system when they were either in an intimate partner violence situation or had experienced a sexual assault. And the reason they came to me is because they said, I went through this and I'm really hoping nobody else has to. And that was really eye-opening in terms of the different things. And I learned every time what a different gap was in the system of the way that we needed to come together to change the system. Dr. Stanton has armed me with a series of recommendations. And those recommendations we're acting on. We have an action committee right now. We released a fall update. 13 of the 20-something recommendations were started or we're acting on as we speak. One of the things that was asked as a recommendations was thinking about the processes that we have for these types of claims, which I think is an access to justice issue as well, and that are there more restorative frames that we can have there with this type of societal issue that shows up in our justice system. It's part of the work that's ongoing, and I'm very interested in anybody out here who might have ideas on that work or think of things that are important to consider as we engage in this in a very active way. And I plan on giving regular updates on that work so people can see the progress. Another aspect of that is a new first of its kind family violence clinic that's opened up, that's there to help people that are in some of the worst situations of family violence that can't afford a lawyer to get the kind of legal support and the other support that they would need to help themselves through that process. That opened almost a year ago, maybe less than that, but I'm told that it's really hitting a need when it comes to access to justice at that very kind of critical time in somebody's journey through the justice system. All of those are ways that I think, personally, I think we need to continue to improve on. Also, in terms of access to justice, another thing that we're focused on and thinking about a lot is how our system works and how it could work. One of the examples that I talked about off the top was through the Intimate Images Protection Act that we put in place. So there's a lot of online harms that are happening. And it's my view that the justice system just has not kept up with that in a way that meets the way that harm shows up and how fast it can show up to people. And we've seen some of the worst outcomes with some young people in our province that have experienced the distribution of intimate images without their consent. And I think we all know those stories. So the way we set up that process in the Civil Resolution Tribunal was try to focus on a more trauma-informed, victim-led process that allows people to do kind of an online application, as I mentioned, anytime, and that some of the orders they can get, I'm told, same day, in fact, if everything lines up correctly, where we can get the right order in the right hand for takedown images of those images from platforms or from those individuals. It's the type of kind of a speed of process that fits more with the societal harm that we're trying to address through the justice system. I think there's a huge scope for us understanding how the justice system can adapt and grow using technology and also addressing the harms of technology in ways that allow people to access them and make sense in how they're accessed. and used. So that's a process that I continue to think about, how we address and how we expand in the province. And a lot of it also is just equipping our court systems with the right technology as well, which has been a journey we've all been on since COVID. And I think virtual bail, which is another thing that was championed by the chief judge, is an example of how if you put the right technology at the right time, you can free up court time, make things move faster, and fix process. So it's definitely a big topic. And right now in the ministry, we're working with the court services branch to really always with our partners in the judiciary to think about what the next things are when it comes to accessing and modernizing our systems with respect to helping people access things better through technology. And another thing that I think has been up and running for probably fully for about a year now, which is having a profound impact on access to justice, is the 15 Indigenous justice centers that are now operating in the province. I just received an update on their work today and what they're doing in terms of being there as Indigenous lawyers for a range of things, but most will focus on two aspects. So one is criminal law and the other is child protection law are the two kind of main categories that they're showing up for. And we know that those people that are receiving that free legal help, which is the best access to justice you can have, to get a lawyer to help you through your matters, are really some of the stories are really coming out of there as really profound changes in people's lives, including the ties to a youth diversion center that's now in Prince George that is helping youth with their very first kind of offense get access to cultural supports and divert themselves away from what might be instead entrenched kind of life in the criminal justice system. So those interventions at the key time, I think, are about access to justice and us understanding what could be better in the various systems that we have in place. I think another thing, there's so many other things that we're working on that I think is the future of access to justice in the province. I wanted to jump into questions and answers to hear from all of you. But one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot and engaging in quite a few conversations about, that I am actually curious about how the legal profession and the bar and all members of the justice system think about is how we can do better in our use of court time and court process. One of the things that I've been hearing kind of increasingly and people have come to me about is unnecessary applications, steps that tie up court time and delay things. The way that we think about the timelines in our court processes, and in terms of, with the criminal process, of course, we have Jordan stays that put timelines pretty clearly on the process, but our civil process and our the way things move through the courtroom, I think that's a major component of access to justice. One of the reasons that people I think don't access or maybe don't go to a lawyer or can't afford it is because of the length of time that it takes to resolve disputes. And really, that's a question that's on all of us. And I take my role as AG as part of this, is how do we figure out what system changes need to happen so we're all focused, whether it's the lawyers or the courts or the processes that we can put in place in the ministry. We're all focused at getting to a resolution in a way that's fair and just, but is timely. And I think that's a big question that we all need to grapple with. And I'm really curious what you all think about that when it comes to the different roles that we play related to that. One of the mandate items that I've been given is to think about ways to really modernize the court system in our justice process in really innovative and transformative ways. And I'm always thinking about those ways. And we shouldn't be scared to step into the unknown sometimes and the things that haven't been done before, because I found that in all the collaborations that we've had, and I think the early resolution process is an example of it, is that when we try things based on experts and evidence and leaders in the justice system, we can reach and get results that we never thought were possible. and we can change things in a way that we never thought we could. And so I'm a person that's very interested in those ideas and those process changes. And I look forward to the question and answer portion of this, where we get to talk a little bit more about what your ideas are, what your thoughts are. And with that, over to you.
Thank you, Attorney General. Those last remarks that you just made were very inspiring. The bit about going into the unknown, seeing what we might be able to do differently if we try something, and getting out of typical patterns, right? We just have to be able to do that somehow. And that's one of the reasons why we're all here, is to get inspired and think about things a little bit differently. So that's awesome. We do have a couple of questions that came into the chat. If it's okay with you, I'll just read them out so that everybody's aware of which one we're doing first. One of the questions had to do with the early resolution process in family law in provincial court, and the commentator says it's a strong and promising step. Sounds like it's working well, but many families are able to bypass that by going directly to the Supreme Court. And so the question is, when they're going to the Supreme Court for child support, spousal, property division, how do you plan to address that gap where parents can, and this person says, sidestep the valuable supports and processes at the provincial court level?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something that actually we're talking about, and Chief Justice Goldroot, I'm not sure if he's here, but we're talking about actually with the leaders in the legal system to think about, is there a potential to expand it to the Supreme Court level, these types of supports for early resolution process? Because I take the point that it's not serving everybody all the time, and it actually has been shown to be a really direct and beneficial innovation. So just, I guess, stay tuned to see if there's a possibility to just offer it for family law matters at another level of court. And I'm always looking for those chances. And of course, we'll work with the Chief Justice and his team on that. But I think there's a possibility there for sure.
Just for the benefit of everybody attending, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court wasn't able to join us here today, but we do have CBABC representation on the courts committee that is looking at this, and Manpreet Mann is listening in on this. Thanks, Manpreet, for being here. So that is a collaborative process, again, getting firsthand knowledge from lawyers working with clients and members of the judiciary and others to come up with something new. Another attendee is wondering of your thoughts about how AI could be used to enhance access to justice, and then maybe how it shouldn't be used.
Yeah, this is such a great question. I think probably everybody will relate to this, that I think the first maybe 3 or 4 conferences that I attended that were about AI in the legal profession were all doom and gloom, that it was going to kind of come in and wreck everything and take everybody's jobs, and it wasn't going to be. And I have to say, I left some of those discussions just being like, oh my God, what are we going to do? AI is coming for all of us. And I think we've kind of settled down a little bit when it comes to its use cases and what's there. Although I do think that there's an issue about first year and articling students and kind of their role. I was just at that hackathon where it was just the idea of how we can use interventions with AI in the justice system to help. What are the ideas out there? And the use cases were very interesting, right? How you can get information at the right time. And to me, it's simple things too. Like we could do AI transcripts and get transcripts better and faster. And it's still in a test, we have to make sure the accuracy of it. So it's a little bit of a growth thing about whether or not it can meet the challenge yet. But there's interventions within the court process system that you could see really just being better for everybody if you can use that in a different way. But I think there's also adoption of it, and especially in the bigger firms in Vancouver, they're using it very regularly and a lot when it comes to legal research. And that's something that I think is here to stay. And that's the question I have about actually young lawyers and articling students, because that was the job I did when I was articling, right? And I did those legal research, like everybody, you do the legal research. So the question for the profession is, when it comes to those jobs that AI seems to be right now taking, what do we do to the young lawyers to make sure that they're getting the experience they need to get there? And then what does the future look like? I do worry about AI being us over relying on AI and skipping the skills that it takes to become a really good lawyer when it comes to just over reliance on it. I remember, and I still am really impressed with being around like very senior lawyers that are well practiced and have done the work themselves. And I think there's something about that that skill set that our profession really benefits from, that I'm hoping will stay, even though AI can do a lot of the background work. So, I think there are test cases for it, I guess I would say, even though there's things to worry about.
Yeah, I think we're all in the same spot, right? Like, we're figuring out how we can use it safely, ethically, so that we don't deal with hallucinations or we don't inadvertently disclose confidential information. And the same is true of government systems having to go through the same thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Another question, and I'm just going to remind everybody, please put your questions into the Q&A part there so we can manage them rather than in the chat, although I am catching some of the questions in the chat, but if you can put them into the Q&A, that would be awesome. One of the other questions was, how is the government working to modernize courthouses, both physically and also the technological side?
Yeah, so there was a huge leapfrog during COVID, and I think you probably all experienced this, where things that seemed impossible all of a sudden became possible because as an essential service they had to run. And I'm sure the chief judge could tell all the stories that I wasn't around at that time. So we had an MOU that was created between, at that point, the judiciary and the court services branch in my ministry to figure out our process and priorities for court modernization. And that still is a guiding document for the work that we do in all of the courthouses. But the technology leap that we've taken since then has been probably the largest, and probably you could say this, I can't say it's only us, it's probably every court system in the world since then, in terms of wiring up all courtrooms, having virtual access or virtual capabilities in all courtrooms. We still have a background work to do. Like, I think there's a lot of software, old software that we use to get for document disclosure and getting the judiciary documents on time and in the right way. That's a little bit antiquated. It's kind of a work in progress when it comes to how it's showing up. I hear some courtrooms, the connectivity is not really great. So they have all the virtual stuff, but then it cuts out and they can't use it. So it's kind of a work in progress with respect to that. We have a court modernization kind of priority list that works through with our judicial partners and the needs of the system. And we are constantly like improving and checking off those lists at how they're prioritized. And it's definitely a work in progress, like court registry being like, look for that. We're going to be opening up virtual options for people to be able to access the registry, which has been a really great advantage for people not having to go in to get sort of simple questions answered, to be able to file things better and more fully. Traffic court online has been like another addition. So it's basically everything all at once, and we prioritize it in a way that makes it so we can, with our budget, get through the list.
So is that in the provincial court or the Supreme Court that you were speaking of?
Which one?
The virtual access to the registry court, like
Supreme? Oh yeah, that's going to be coming. We're looking at making. There was a pilot project that was done that had virtual access to the registry, especially in remote areas, and it was just great because if you're in a remote part, you don't have to wait for somebody to be there. You can just basically Zoom call the registry in another place and get your questions answered. And it sounds like a small, simple thing, but it really kind of helped with everybody. So we'll be expanding that to other registries and so stay tuned on where it's coming, but that'll be part of the work that we're doing.
Great. There's a few questions, comments around preventative things that we might be able to do to ultimately increase access to justice, wondering about how the public might understand the importance of a justice system, or dealing with disputes and people's understanding of laws and their rights and responsibilities before they're having to go to a court. What can you tell us about what might be going on in the government more broadly around that?
Yeah. And what an excellent question. So the idea being that if people are armed and educated about what their rights are and their roles are beforehand, that they would piece through it without, or they would have information to get through it without having to seek out dispute resolution. Yeah, that is an excellent question. And I have to say that I've been so focused on like the justice system work and what we need to do on that, that I don't actually have an answer for that, but I think it's very interesting. I know I visit a lot of high schools that are doing their law program, and I have to say I'm always impressed with what they understand and what they know, but that's not everybody, right? That's not, I guess the one thing that I would say that is partially an answer to this, but I don't know how far it goes, because I should check on this, is that we put upfront legal information online. So that's been a process where you can have access to search something and know your rights, and those kind of initiatives that we funded over time in different ways. Yeah, so if it's more embedded in the education system, I can see how that would be another level of kind of transforming our understanding. I often think about that, is that if young people understood more fully what their rights and responsibilities are as a citizen, that our institutions wouldn't be vulnerable to some of the things that we're seeing around the world. So it's an excellent question. I'm going to take that away and think about it.
It's in the Agenda for Justice from CBABC that we're recommending to the Ministry of Justice to look at the K-12 curriculum in that.
Excellent.
Swear to God, I did not actually plant this question,
Excellent.
but there's the recommendation that has been made. So hopefully
Great.
your colleagues will start to look at that, because I think
Yeah,
there is
I
something
appreciate
there.
that. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Here's something that's very specific. What's happening with the renovations at the New West Courthouse?
New West Courthouse. Oh, this is.
It's been scaffolded for a long time. You might say
Yeah.
citizen services. Who knows?
Yes. Yeah. You know what? If I could take down the name of the person that asked that and get an update from Citizen Services on what's happening with that, because I do not know. Sorry to say what the latest update on that is. Although it wasn't long ago that I was there, but I'm not sure the update.
Yeah.
So maybe send me that person's email somehow and I'll get them an update.
Got it. Thank you. You know, we're coming up on the provincial budget on the 17th, and I know you will have been in conversations about that. And one of the challenges that justice issues have is getting the support and attention from other people in government, other ministries. There's so many competing pieces for the scarce dollars. We understand that, but what can be done, do you think, to get more dollars into justice system legal aid, and how can lawyers help with that?
Yeah, excellent question. Yeah, we are definitely facing some challenges, and the budget is upcoming, and unfortunately the economic times and our revenue streams are not doing great based on the uncertainty that we're experiencing. I have to say that I have an excellent team at the ministry. So what you'll see and what I've seen is we'll fare okay in terms of the frontline and services that everybody needs, including I think we've been really pushing for different resources in different key areas. It is something that we really focused on a lot, which is sheriffs, and it may not be something that frontline people have seen or known, but a shortage of sheriffs has really led to a lot of issues in the court system. So supporting that, and also supporting some of the things we've talked about, like early resolution process expansion, things like that. I've been kind of elbows up about fighting for the things that I know are working and that we can't step back on. So you know what, I think that the more people are out there connecting how access to justice and legal services is key to the well-being of British Columbians, because it's fundamentally is, right? That I could name almost any legal issue, and if you have the right support at the right time, it changes your life. If you can have the right custody order, if you can have the right payments for that's owed to you, if you can figure out, you know, your representation in almost anything, like it was immigration or refugee, or it just changes people's lives. And you know, thankfully, we have people that understand that, and we have a deputy that used to be the DAG of AG, that's now the Deputy Shannon Salter. So she gets the importance of, and so does the Premier in terms of the importance of the justice. So we've definitely benefited from that. But lawyers and everybody operating in there, making that case over and over again is certainly very important. Also, I think the legal aid lawyers of BC, and they're kind of organizing around what's needed for legal aid. The more we have a common voice, like CBA does, I know, about what's needed. And thank you for one of the recommendations coming my way, but arming me with the specific recommendations that are going to help is always with a common voice is always so powerful, I think, for sure.
Good to know. Turning our attention towards the administrative tribunals. Often we're talking about courts, but the administrative tribunals are very important in dealing with so many processes. What plans can you share to increase access to justice within those tribunals, whether it's funding for more tribunal members or easier access to decisions, things like that?
Yeah, good question. The tribunals are, very important. So the CRT I kind of talked about a little bit in terms of their expansion of supports and the Intimate Images Protection Act and the way that they are resolving disputes of a certain type. The Human Rights Tribunal, this is one that I think has been a focus but is challenged because during COVID they had such a hit of cases. They were really quite overwhelmed with the number of human rights cases that came from the orders, the various orders that existed during COVID. And they've been kind of underwater because I have, my hands are up to Emily and all the work they've done. And the times I meet with her, I think it's quite incredible, the work they've done. We've been able to give them some more resources to get on top of that. But it's so she's been on a huge transformation along with other tribunals of how you can do better process to make sure that disputes can get, apparently in the Human Rights Tribunal case, the mediations were so key. If you get a mediation at the right time, it helped like get the backlog through because they were able to resolve disputes early. So she's done a lot of really innovative things that, I just want to support her as much as I can because of the work she's doing, but that have been about getting over that backlog and coming to some kind of a state. But there are many tribunals that I think have just faced an increase in cases for various reasons. And so it's our job to figure out how to support them. And some of that is financially. So figuring out that they have enough tribunal members to do the work. And some of them some of that is helping them through, although they make their own software decisions, like the kind of computer technology that would help with that. And we have a shared services kind of model that if there's tribunals that can work together to use the same systems, then that might benefit. But so those are just some of the challenges that we're working through, but it's definitely something that's a work in progress, I think.
Mm-hmm. One of the concerns that I think you've alluded to, but we have a lot of lawyers who work in smaller communities, and many of them are on the call here, and they know how challenging it is for their clients to access the internet, access resources, legal assistance, but especially the internet and the courts. What can you share with us about what can be done to increase access to justice for those communities and individuals?
Yeah, it's definitely a work in progress when it comes to getting the right level of internet service in the various courthouses. Like I was saying off the top, I hear from people that even if we've wired it, sometimes it's not reliable or there's still growth that needs to happen with access. There's a few things. I think virtual bail has helped with freeing up court system and helping. That's a very particular intervention. But what we've seen with that model is that if you can open up access to virtual processes, there's less traveling involved, and that people can participate in a justice process without having to put the time and expense potentially. And this is a particular criminal thing, but the virtual hearings and the virtual options have hopefully is a expansion that where we can help with that. I think that a lot of virtual, I wonder what that person thinks about virtual services, but the Indigenous Justice Center has a virtual option. So they allow people just, if they can only meet virtually, then that's something to do. The Family Violence Clinic that we opened up also has a virtual option. So we're able to just have, and the question had about access to internet, so access to technology. So maybe that's not a solution for everybody, but just having more virtual options to connect people with resources that are here. If there's particular ideas that that person that's asked that question has that would be a useful intervention where they practice, I'm very interested in hearing about that. So maybe they can fire an email and we can have a conversation about that if there's a particular thing to fix.
Could you give us a bit of an update about what is happening with the Métis Nation Justice Strategy, the First Nations Justice Strategy, and the funding with respect to those initiatives?
Yeah, so the Métis Nation Justice Strategy was endorsed by Cabinet. It would have been last mandate. And we had some capacity funding we were able to give them to the Métis Nation of BC to start with some of the work planning. I think they're working through their work plan. And we're waiting for that kind of work plan to be finalized to understand what funding opportunities, although it's a tight fiscal time right now. So we'll see what's possible. With the First Nations Justice Strategy, we have those 15 centers that are operating now across the province. So we are going, like I said, tight fiscal time. So I can't promise that we're all looking at where we can find efficiencies and deliver service in limited budgets. But those centers are up and running, and we have no intention of pulling back in terms of their operation. They're just out there trying to figure out, I think, reach their full potential with all of the talent that they have in those centers right now and in serving their different communities. So they're fully, I have an Indigenous Justice Secretariat that is part of my ministry. I just had a meeting with the ADM today. There's a whole bunch of work going on that's advancing all of those priorities in the justice strategy, the First Nations Justice Strategy that's underway.
Good. Thank you for all of your time today. I know you had to leave a little earlier than we expected, so I just want to take this opportunity on behalf of the 130 people here to say thank you for sharing the thoughts and being open to receiving emails and comments and for frontline examples of what could be done and what is going on. So very much appreciate your time. And I just have a few words for our audience once you say your final farewell.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And I can't see people's faces, but I would love to hear your ideas and thoughts. And I just want to thank you all for the work that you all are doing. I learn so much from people on the front line all the time. So I just please feel free to reach out. And thanks so much for having me.
That's great. For those of you who joined us today, we have a number of other A to J BC week events happening. We have one on restorative routes to justice. That's tomorrow at 12:30. Also managing advocacy's toll on our mental health. If you go to the a2jbc.ca website, you will see all the other things that are going on for Access to Justice Week. So it'll be great if you can note down those addresses and check it out and go get inspired by some of the many other people we have. For those of you who asked questions that we did not get a chance to answer, we'll make sure that the minister does have that information, that those were the things that you were curious about, and hopefully in the future we will know more about that. So thank you again and have a great night.